This is an SM Media production. Hello folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Scottish Football Show right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, host again, delighted to be here. I'm joined this week again by Marc Wilson, who was the unsung hero of the Old Firm show last week. Marc, thanks for coming on again, mate. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Scott. Fine, thanks for asking me back on again, and it's great to be in the presence of greatness in Ayrshire junior football.
Greatness it is. The man, Mark Shankland, rub shoulders with like Suarez and Torres. And now, who are rubbing shoulders with these days?
Don't know, fucking name drop. Junior legends.
What's happening, mate? You well?
I'm good, thanks yourself.
Aye, good, mate. What's been happening? I want to kind of start off with you. Like, what's been happening with the... Obviously, Auchinleck have withdrawn for the junior league for the season. What's been, obviously, the chat? If you can spill the beans and you're allowed to spill the beans, then fill us in. What's been happening?
No, it's just... I think along with other teams, other top teams in the juniors, it's the West of Scotland League, but in the juniors there's Auchinleck, Talbot, Kilmarnock, Kilmarnock, Glenafton, like big teams, and they were on the same boat. We've all pulled out. I think one of the main reasons is supporters. But I think it's about players' welfare, etc. But I think one of the main reasons is supporters and the loss of income that these clubs will have playing with no fans. So I think that was one of the main reasons.
And do you... Obviously, like we heard the day, Tommy had an interview the day, I think, if I'm right in saying, he was talking about his fear of losing a lot of players in loan and things like that. I think a couple of players have left, like, I think, as you say, like, a few players have went and loaned to other clubs. Like, has there been interest? Has there been kind of any players in your team kind of been linked with moves away and things like
that? There has. I think there always will be when, obviously, there's a chance players coming available. If we're not playing for the season, then other teams will be like, well, who could we maybe snaffle up and loan and the likes. But I don't think that will be anything that interests the manager to let players go. You've always got that if you let a player go for a season, then he enjoys it at that team as he want to come back and things like that. So that's what you've got to watch for. But I don't think, as of now, that will be anything that interests the club.
And how are you feeling about the whole thing, like, personally? Like, honestly, it's tough for MD, but I imagine for you it'll be extremely difficult.
It is, because last year, just before it stopped, I was having quite a good season myself, so it was frustrating to get stopped. But in my own opinion, I didn't want to play the season under the current restrictions and that, just with no fans and no dressing rooms, and we're coming in the time of season that we're coming into. Like, well, we've seen a lot of games were called off at the weekend, and that was the first weekend of the season. Right. Just to think, if say we're travelling up to Cumbernauld, Glasgow area, and it's the rain's lashing down, and you're playing in like a boggy pitch, and then you've got to travel down the road, and you've got a squad of 18, 20 players. See, if you can only strip 16, and you've got to bring 2 boys along, and they're not getting stripped and things like that. I just think there's too many complications. But now that I've sat back and seen everybody else play, I'm itching to play again. So it's a strange situation, one that you never thought would find yourself in.
No way. But I'm just going to ask you one thing together. Like, you're both called Mark. I've just kind of twigged what you want to be called for this, the purposes of this, before confusion sets in.
I'll let Mark Wilson answer that first.
I've been called a lot worse, so don't. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can call me Wilson, Pikey. You did that at the college and that, so you call me Wilson. I won't take any offence.
Right, we'll go with Shankers for you, Mark.
Aye, that's.
No, you can call him Mark because you're calling me something else.
Right, that's fine. Run with that. Right, run with that. That's fine. Perfect. Well, basically, I want to kind of start with the Mark Wilson. I want to touch on that with you about Kilmarnock's kind of issues this week with coronavirus. Like, how do you feel about the kind of punishment they've been? Obviously, we don't know what the punishment is, but how do you feel about that whole situation? with the Kilmarnock?
I don't know that much about it, but to be honest, I think every team in Scottish football is going to end up in that predicament at some stage. St Mirren have obviously been involved. There was early cases at Aberdeen with the players and all that. There's Bolingoli at Celtic. I think this will happen to every team. Now, if they set a precedent, okay, now obviously I don't want this to happen as a Kilmarnock man, but if they turn in and say, right, Motherwell's awarded that game, okay, if that's the precedent, okay, right? If that happens and it comes to the 2nd of January and either Celtic or Rangers lose 3 points because one of the players' children's brought coronavirus home from school and they've caught it and infected it, are they going to dock Rangers and Celtic 3 points in the pursuit of this historic season, regardless of what happens, whether it's 10 in a row or 55? Is that going to happen? Absolutely not. Okay, so I don't think they'll be able to control this or police this. Now, if they find out, for example, and I'm not saying this has happened, but say the Kilmarnock players were in the same position as the Aberdeen players, then there has to be some sort of punishment.
Yeah.
But to find that out, where it came from, who contracted it, etc., I'm not buying into it. I think that the SFA have done very little in the last few years to gain any support or any affinity with any fans of club football.
Mark, what do you kind of think yourself? Like, obviously, I spoke to you a wee bit about you're an Auchinleck man, but where do we kind of find ourselves? Like, how do we deal with teams that can't field a team? And should they, like, obviously Kilmarnock get the punishment in the League Cup, but I think the rules were set beforehand for that competition. Aye. That's not the case in the league. So how do we deal with the teams that can't field a team, because we can't control that situation?
No, definitely not.
What do you kind of see, like, and what I told anything at junior level what was going to be happening if it broke out?
No, that was, as we go back to our point, that was one of the reasons as well. Like, if at our level, like, say somebody contracts it and then you're like somebody in your team, you're playing against somebody that you're playing against them at the weekend, and then you find out a week later that they've tested positive. And then do you have to isolate for 2 weeks and possibly miss your work for 2 weeks? Like, there's too many complications, I think. But at that level, like, the players at full-time level in SPL, they've got a responsibility. Like, they're allowed to go out and do like what they want, play football at the highest level. I think that they've got to realise that they're in a privileged position and try and, I know it's hard, but try and live in as much of a bubble as they can.
Yeah.
Like, they're fortunate enough to be playing every week, so to keep that going, they have to restrict themselves from stop themselves from going and doing things. I know it's hard under this situation, but see, punishment wise, I think it's got to be tough for the team. Everybody, say in the squad, or we've got development teams. Can players for development teams step in? See if nobody for a development team can step up, or the manager doesn't feel confident to play a player for a development team, then what's the point in having a development team in the first place? If you know what I mean. If he doesn't think like some young boys are good enough to step up into a team, then it kind of what's the point in having them at that level, or even at the club in the first place? I think the punishment thing, I think it's really harsh in Kilmarnock, and I think we will be taking action, rightly so. Like, it's the cup. Is the cup? You said touched on the cup. I think that the rules were already set out, but the likes of the Livingston game, Kilmarnock, fortunately they never got it postponed because they went and won it. But I think it'll be hard to take action against teams because, as Mark said, at one point in the season or another, somebody for each team is going to have it, and it will cause problems. But it's also touched on the old firm. Will the SFA have the bottle to clamp down on them the same as other teams? I would say that they wouldn't.
And if we get to the stage again where it's impossible to finish the season, like, I'll ask Wilson this as well. Like, do you null and void it? I know we had this discussion at the end of last season when the old predicament was kicking off, but how different is it now? Because we've started the season, we've known that this is a big possibility, that games are going to be postponed. So Mirren Hamilton was postponed at the weekend. How do we solve that issue if and possibly when it comes?
I don't think there's a right and wrong answer to this. It's hard that they null and void. Like, they should have maybe set out something to say if the season doesn't go beyond this point, then it's null and void. If it goes beyond, say they play 3/4 of the season, then it stands at that. Or if they only play half the games, well, it's null and void or whatever. If they play 3/4 of the game, 3/4 of the season, then the season stands or something. I think they should have maybe put something in place at the start of the season, rules and regulations for what happens. But honestly, I don't really know what they would do. Their hands are tied, to be honest. If they do it one way, somebody's going to complain. If they do it the other way, other teams are going to complain that they're in a lose-lose situation. But they've chose to go ahead with the season, so they're going to have to deal with whatever comes their way.
Well, I agree with Mark 100%. My only issue is with it. Now, Kilmarnock's game was called off against Motherwell. So you've got your 2-week isolation period or whatever it is. Now, there's no supporters in anyway. There's no police in anyway. Kilmarnock and Motherwell can play that game at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon or 3 o'clock on a Thursday. It doesn't matter when they play it. Now, it gets a wee bit tougher if you get 6, 7, 8 games behind. But if what we believe is true about the virus, after the 14 days, etc., as I say, Kilmarnock could easily play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday for 3 weeks. If you look at what the Old Firm are doing, they're going to be playing every weekend and every midweek for 3 weeks at a time with this Europa League. So I don't see the major fuss unless it's you're 6, 7, 8 games behind. Because you can play 3 games a week, absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, let's touch on the games that took place over the weekend. We'll start with the game at Rugby Park. I'm sure Wilson, you'll want to touch on. Hibs beat Kilmarnock 1-0. Kevin Nisbet scored with a penalty. They move up. Hibs move up to third in the league. Kilmarnock are sitting fifth now. Obviously, it was a kind of end-to-end game for both teams. But did you think the kind of result was fair? Or obviously, the referees under a bit of criticism. But what was your overall thoughts on the game, Wilson?
I don't think either team did enough to win the game, to be honest. I don't think the quality from the players that were on show was very evident. The game hinges on the penalty decision. And to be honest, when I first looked at it from the camera angle you're looking at, I thought it was a penalty. Again, when you go into sports and you see 6, 7 replays, I think it's a foul. I think it's a yellow card. It could possibly be a red card, but it's outside the box. I think that's the biggest thing that's done the referee. And again, and I've said this, and I'm sure Mark's had some criticism of referees and linesmen in the past. How the near side linesman on that side can't see, because that is maybe 10 yards at the most from him, how he can't see that and give the decision is bizarre. And again, and I've been an advocate of this for a long time, that referee or part of the refereeing team, that's the fourth official, should be able to come out after the game and say, from my angle, it looked inside the box, it was a foul, it was a penalty. If I'm found out to be wrong by trial by sports scene, so be it. But and to be fair to the referee, from his angle, I thought it was. I thought he got every decision correct. And again, it's one of these things. If the game ends up 5-1 to Kilmarnock, do you see anything in social media or anything about the penalty? Absolutely not.
No. Basically, right. It was a foul outside the box. So, but again, I've touched on this a few times. These referees are being fast tracked, and in me, a lot of them are out of their depth. I don't know Mark Shankland what they're like at junior level, but to me, it is just there are a lot of referees there who just aren't up to it.
What we see as the referees at the higher level now, have been at our level.
Right.
I watched the highlights of one of the games at the weekend. I think it might have been the Kilmarnock game. I'm not too sure, to be honest. And there was a referee who was refereeing at our level 3 years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. So as you says, they are fast tracked. I watched. My opinion on the penalty, I think it's never a penalty. I think but it's hard for the angle that the ref set, because it looks as if he's took a fresh ear swipe. That's what it is, because he's not actually made contact with anything, the ball or the man or anything. In my opinion, that is. But for the referee's angle, it looks as if when Deutsch has touched it forward and he's swiped it to clear it. It looks as if he's caught him, but for the other angles, as you said, but the referee only gets one angle and you have to go with him. But as Mark says, the linesman closest to it has to help him out. I think I'm a big fan of trying to get referees to come out and speak after it, but because it gets so harshly criticised, they'll not want to. But I think that's something that needs to happen. If a manager has to come out and defend his team's performance or whatever, surely it's only, well, not only fair, but surely there's nothing wrong with a referee coming out and putting his hand up and say, right, I got that wrong or whatever. I think referees should be doing that.
And one player I want to touch on who I thought was excellent was Joe Newell for Hibs. I thought he controlled the game well. I thought, who kind of stood out to you, Wilson, for both teams? Who do you think was the kind of players that kind of won the game for Hibs?
I think Joe Newell played very well, and I've watched him a couple of times. I actually thought he did quite well at Easter Road against Rangers as well. And I always think that's sometimes what sets a team apart and plays in that kind of role between the old firm and the rest. Like Aberdeen have been in for a while. Aberdeen have a lot of good players, but I always think with Hibs, they always produce maybe one or two players that have a great season, which keeps them, in the higher ends of the league. Like, I think last year Deutsch came onto a game when the previous manager left, scored a few goals. I think the season before that, Stevie Martin was on fire and got them a lot of points as well. And I think that's just what sets them kind of in between the old firm and then obviously the rest. Because I think the old firm, Aberdeen and Hibs, are stick on to be the top four. I think everybody else is fighting for the rest. But Newell impressed me. As I say, every time I watch Kilmarnock, and he might be embarrassed, but I'm always impressed by Power and Dicker. I think the job they do. I was very impressed with Dicker, even when they played in Fairland, just cajoling the young boys around them and things. As I say, they've done well. Callum Waters has come into the team and they've been very steady as well. He hasn't lost his place in the team either. As I say, I know Alex Dyer knows a lot more about football than me, and I know he's got to pick and choose his games, but the two up front was working. We played one at the start of the season, wasn't great, went to two, did really well, played well, and then going back, because I do think that the strength we have is in centre midfield with Power, Dicker, Tisbola, and then you've still got Malumbu that can come in and play in there as well. So it'd be a bad result for Kilmarnock, but as I say, I think they have a strong enough squad to be competing definitely for the top six. As I say, I think those four though are pretty nailed on for me.
Both teams have got really difficult games at the weekend. Kilmarnock host top of the league Rangers, and Hibs have got their cup semi-final against Hearts. Like, how do you see both of them going? I'll start with you, Shankers. How do you see the cup semi-final first of all?
I think Hibs are too strong. Too strong for Hearts. Obviously, there's a level of difference now. Hibs are a level above, but I watched Hearts on Friday night a bit of it, and it's just, I think Hibs are too strong all over the park for them. Hearts have got quality that should be playing a higher level in the Premier League, but I think you've got Boyle, Deutsch. I think Gogic has been a really good signing for Hibs. I think he stood out for Hamilton and helped him stay up. But then you've got Malin as well, Newell. I just think in the forward areas, Hibs have got too much. A very direct Hibs have been, like, you get Boyle on the ball. He's very direct going forward. I just think Hibs will be too strong. It should be a good game. I mean, the level above could be took out it just because it's a derby game and a cup semi-final. It could be a level playing field. No supporters as well. But as my opinion, Hibs will be too strong for them. To touch on Rangers. Rangers have had I think 6 games or something. They've no won at Rugby Park, something like that. So it's a kind of a bogey ground to go on. Everybody always says about the Astro, but if players that play for Rangers, and it was Rangers and Celtic when they drop points at Rugby Park, like they blame the pitch. But players at that level should be able to play in anything. Kilmarnock know how to, under Steve Clarke, Kilmarnock knew how to set up and they set up to frustrate Rangers and end up forcing them to make mistakes and end up getting joy out of it. I think Rangers are a different team this year. They've made a few additions that have helped. I think Rangers will win that game, but I don't think it'll be as comfortable as what they've made. They made it in the last few games.
You say that you touched on Kilmarnock there. The Rangers have only won. I think they won one out of the last 7 or something at Rugby Park. So it's been a tough place to go, Mark. But you know what the game plan is going to be for Kilmarnock, Wilson. You know the Kilmarnock are just going to set up and try to frustrate Rangers.
Yeah, but Rangers and Celtic must be used to that because every team, does that. And you play counter-attacking football because that's what you've got to do, and it's the same way Rangers and Celtic possibly do in Europe against better teams. And that's just what you have to do. As I say, it's going to take a top performance from Kilmarnock to stop. I think Rangers have been a bit sticky in some of their games recently. I think they were an easy street early doors on Saturday against Livingston. From reports, I don't think they were great against Ross County, but got the win. As I say, and it's always hard the way Rangers are playing just now because I think they're playing well. But Kilmarnock, 11 players need to be on top of their game to get something from the game. And as I say, they need to get away from this bogey that is coming to Rugby Park and playing. And now, as Mark said, when they win at Livingston and Hamilton, they don't complain about the AstroTurf. They only complain at Kilmarnock because they've not been picking up points there. But it's a wee bit of. I actually think it's a bigger game for Kilmarnock in terms of 2 home games against Hibs and Rangers. If you picked up between 2 and 4 points there, you'd be very happy. But if you pick up none out of 6, then it starts to build a wee bit of pressure on you. Now, Kilmarnock's target for the season is probably to beat the teams below them, and anything you get against, Celtic is a bonus. But Kelly went the game with no fear. As I say, Rangers are flying at the moment. But again, and this is my worry, I think teams without the fans, I think it actually benefits Celtic and Rangers. I think when the Kilmarnock fans are very vociferous when the Old Firm come to town, and that just gives you, a wee bit of edge, especially now that the Old Firm don't get the 2 stands, because it's usually more Old Firm fans than Kilmarnock fans. And I think that's what's given us a good advantage because we've got a decent record against Celtic at Rugby Park since that's happened. But as I say, if Kilmarnock get in for the game, I think it's a bonus. But I would bite your hand off for a draw just now, to be honest. Going back to Hearts and Hibs, I watched Hearts last Friday night against Dundee.
I watched
a lot of good individual players. I think I've said this to you before, Scott, about Andy Halliday, and I never ever felt at any time that Andy Halliday was a Rangers player, but I always felt if he went to a Hearts or a Kilmarnock or a Dundee, he'd be their best player.
Yeah,
I just didn't think he was just quite at that level. Maybe as Rangers were at the time, possibly. And I think it's a very good signing. I don't know if Naismith will be back. He carries him a lot. Craig Whiting's a very good player as well, scored goals. But again, I think if Hearts had the fans there, I think they'd maybe have a wee bit extra, But as I said, I do agree with Mark. I think Hibs have just got that quality, and I would back them to win the game. So I'll go Hibs in a draw.
Right, we'll move on to the game. Motherwell played Ross County. Motherwell hadn't played since the 27th of September, so it was nearly 5 weeks without a game. They won comfortably 4-0 against Ross County. Like, what O'Hara, Lang and Cole got the goals. Like, how impressive a performance was that for Motherwell?
I think to beat MD, run about the same kind of level as you in the league 4-0 is very convincing. I watched, obviously, you can just watch highlights now. There's no really full broadcast of the game, but for the highlights, what I saw, it was convincing. I like the look of, is it Alan Campbell in the middle of the park?
I've been a big fan of him for a couple of years. Yeah.
For Motherwell, I think he's very powerful, strong, direct. Like for the first goal, he makes like a third man run into the box, which ends up benefiting them for the goal for Tony Watt. I think they've got quite a few, like Watt, O'Hara, Campbell, Devante Cole. I think is Long still with Motherwell?
I think it's Lang.
Yeah. They've got really good talented players in forward areas, so it was convincing. Ross County, I think they've got enough to keep them safe. I don't think they'll need to worry. I like the boy Stewart. I think he's been doing this way. I think he's probably one of the best players, but I think they've got not too much quality, but I think they've got enough quality in the forward areas to keep them safe. I don't think they'll be struggling. Like
Tony Watt stood out to me. Like, I just thought, well, obviously he's had a great kind of career so far. Obviously been at Celtic, went abroad and come back to Motherwell. Done really well. I thought it was really, really impressive on Saturday. Wilson, what do you kind of think of Tony Watt? Do you think he's a good player?
I do think he's good. I think he's a wee bit of a kind of wasted talent. I think he could have done a lot better. But Mark will tell you better than me. You know, when these guys are scoring against Barcelona at a young age, they think that's going to be the norm. You know, they think they can play at that level all the time. And that's everything football's going to bring. I don't know if he maybe switched off a wee bit and full expectations. I don't know, but I actually felt he could have done better. And again, I think Motherwell was a good club for him. I would have taken him at Kilmarnock. I think he will score goals. I just think with Motherwell, I think when they play well at Fir Park, they're capable of beating most teams on their day. But I sometimes think Motherwell, when they play poor, they get absolutely ripped to shreds. I mean, again, I think Rangers were out of second or third gear when they beat them 5-1 at Fir Park. And you're thinking,
told them to shreds, yeah.
I think when they're bad, they're bad. And then when they're good, they're good. And it's just a wee bit inconsistent, which will frustrate Stephen Robinson. But they do have some very good individuals. As I say, I don't think Declan Gallagher's the best footballer in the world, but he's a good season for them. And he's come in the Scotland team, played 3 good games in a row. So maybe a wee bit harsh for him. And as I say, some of the players that Mark mentioned there. And it kind of makes me wonder. I like the boy Campbell as well. I actually thought Alan Campbell might have got bought before David Turnbull, to be honest, because the couple of games I'd seen Campbell at Rugby Park, box to box, energy, and can score a goal. So I say, Motherwell are again the same position as Kilmarnock. They'll finish, 5th or 6th. I would think. I think they'll maybe be the best of the rest if they can get a wee bit of consistency.
Mm-hmm. And Ross County as well. They've had a solid start to the season, but they've kind of hit a brick wall, particularly since the defeat to Celtic at their home turf. But like, do you kind of worry for them as well? Like, there could be 3 or 4 bad results. They could be back. They could be down near the bottom of the pile.
Again, I think definitely this season they'll be in the mix. I thought it was a strange one when they had the 2 joint managers before, and then I thought it was a strange one that one took over and one went to chief executive or whatever his role is now. And I always think a wee bit of inconsistency there, but teams don't treasure that journey up there. And now I don't know if teams are going up there and staying in hotels before it, because that must have an impact sitting on the bus or cars probably as it is now in long periods of time. And I think that's maybe where Ross County possibly get away with it. But again, I would think themselves, possibly, I've been saying this for years, Hamilton Accies will be looking to finish, 10th. Mm-hmm. I think that would be their target, to finish 10th.
But it was a great result for Motherwell. That's them kind of 8th. They had a bad start to the season, but they're kind of picking up results now. We'll move on to St Johnstone now, Dundee United now. I watched this game. I've watched every game back full all weekend, and that was the most boring game I've seen in a long time. Dundee United, makes me with Dundee United as though they're playing a front 3. Lauren Shankland, Mark, you know him pretty well. Lauren Shankland, Mark McNulty, and Nicky Clark. Like, to me, that screams goals, and they're no firing. What's happening there, do you think?
I was looking at their team last night because I've heard somebody else say this, and I have to agree. I don't think they've got the quality behind them to give them service.
Like, that's what it is,
I think they kind of. I don't really know the midfield too well, but like they almost, if they are going to score, they're going to have to make them themselves, or it'll be for a set piece or something. I don't think they've got somebody that player in the middle who lifts ahead and thread a pass through. Because if you do that, if you give one of them 3 chances in the game, that 9 times out of 10 they're going to score. It's 3 goal scorers that are there, but I just think they've no get a wee bit of quality. Somebody, a creative midfielder who can go and thread a pass through, or go and have a wee bit of quality to get them in the end of it. But if they do somehow find that, or somebody pops up and plays that position and gives them service, there's no doubt they will score goals.
Mm-hmm. And I thought St Johnstone were really, really unlucky not to win the game. Like, they just didn't take their chances, dominated the ball, non-stop aggression all day, just got the better of Dundee United, just didn't have that kind of finishing mark. Like, Wilson, where do you kind of see both teams going for here? Like, obviously they've not really been hitting the ground running, but like, where do you see both teams going?
Well, see, we mentioned the front 3 there. It's fine, you can have the 3 best strikers in the world, but if you don't get any service, then, as Mark says, you've got to make goals yourself and things. So I think it'll be difficult. I know Callum Davison was first choice for the St Johnstone job, and I'm sure, with his experience of playing and coaching, they may come good, but I just think St Johnstone are one of these teams that they're just very happy to be in the SPL. I don't think they're ever going to be finishing or even looking at the top 4, and I don't probably think they'll finish bottom 3, which maybe the club's ambition. I don't know. I did expect a wee bit more because, as I say, I thought Callum Davis would come in and do well. Again, I thought the same with Mickey Mellon as well. I think they started really well. They just kind of hit a bit of a brick wall as well. But again, it's their first seasons. I think as long as they're cemented in, they'll be between 5th and 8th probably, both those teams. Because I don't think either team, until McNulty maybe gets a few games under his belt, have like a potential match win. I definitely don't think St Johnstone have. But as I say, if McNulty comes good, then I think Dundee United might be finish higher than them.
Mm-hmm. Mark, I just want to ask you as well. Obviously, you know Lawrence quite well. Like, how good a player actually is he?
Well, I think everybody's seen over the last few years when he was at Ayr, he probably single-handedly kind of dragged them into the position that we're in with his goals. And obviously Dundee United have been struggling to get out that league for a few years, and they've obviously clocked them and thought, well, if we get him, chances are we're going to get out this league, and that's exactly what happened. His goals speak for himself. If you give him chances, he's going to score, and it's as simple as that. And it's obviously the levels went up in the SPL. If he's maybe getting chances easier in the league below, and they're creating so many chances, it's inevitable he's going to score. And playing against better quality opposition, he's obviously just find it a wee bit tougher in the higher league. But I think he's been injured for a wee bit at the start of the season.
Try to find his feet
just maybe try to get back to find his feet. But that's the first quarter of the season away. If it goes on a few weeks and the front 3 start struggling to score, then where else can you look in that team for goals? Because if they 3 on the scoring, then you look at the rest of the park and you're struggling really.
Mm-hmm. St Johnstone have got a break, obviously, during the Scottish Cup weekend, and Dundee United play Ross County on Sunday. I think they're away to Ross County on Sunday. Dundee United will be looking to get a win.
Well, you've got to. They'll be looking at the result at the weekend there against Motherwell, and Motherwell taking 4 goals off them, and they'll be looking like that. Surely that's got to give them confidence to go on up there and get a result. I feel for St Johnstone a wee bit. See when you look at their team in the forward there, they've got Witherspoon, O'Halloran, Conway, Craig Bryson in the middle. Like that's good quality. I don't know if the boy Henry's still there or whether he's injured there.
Collins,
But as I was saying, I was watching the St Johnstone Celtic game the other week there, and I was impressed with the boy Mark Namara. They kind of play a three at the back with wing backs, and he was playing the right wing back, and he kept El Yunusi and even Taylor when he was pushing forward. They kept them quiet, and that they're actually unlucky to get a result. I see Callum Davison's face at the end when Griffiths scored that goal. That almost was as if is this going to happen all season kind of thing?
No.
Are we going to do all right certain amount of the game, and then just a wee bit of quality, finished them off. But I think I agree with Mark. I think St Johnstone are good enough to stay up, but they're not good enough to challenge for top four. I think they're just a kind of middle of the road team, and that's what they've kind of been the last few years.
Definitely. So we'll move on to Sunday. We'll touch on the game, the afternoon game. Aberdeen Celtic at Pittodrie. Finished 3 each. Lewis Ferguson get 2 penalties for Aberdeen, and Ryan Hedges get the third one for Aberdeen, and Celtic get 3 goals through McGregor, Griffiths and Christie got a penalty as well. Wilson, what was your kind of thoughts on the game overall? I know you were quite critical last week of Celtic. Like, I don't imagine this week's kind of changed that. So what were your kind of takeaways for the game?
Well, the first thing I would say, I've had a few disagreements this week. I thought the referee called all 3 penalties correctly, to be honest. I think Lewis Ferguson's very clever, and again, I've upset a few of my Celtic supporting friends saying that Celtic should have went and got Lewis Ferguson, play Callum McGregor for Scott Brown and let Lewis Ferguson go and play. I think he's that good. Again, I know he's got the whole Uncle Barry and Dad Derek, etc. But in this day, that doesn't matter. I think he's a top talent, and I feel sorry for the guy because we've got, I think Callum McGregor's a better player than him, but we've got Armstrong, we've got Fleck, we've got all these guys coming to the Scotland team, and Lewis Ferguson doesn't get a sniff, but he's consistently Aberdeen's best player and has been for 2 or 3 years for a young guy. Again, it's a flat performance for me. There's no urgency. And I know Celtic started with Rogic, McGregor, so there's a wee bit of quality in there. But if the strikers aren't on their game, then there's no point having 3 quality midfielders behind you. Kind of reverse of what we saw with Dundee United. As I say, I'm still not impressed with any of Lennon's signings that have come in. And I think he looks flat. I think that, and I'm not saying he should run up down the touchline screaming and shouting, there's a place and a time for that, but every time the camera panned to him, he sat there with a face like thunder in the dugout, and I don't think that does him any good, and that's where I think the problem lies. I think it's a lack of trust. I think he's sending the boys out there. I think he's making changes based on what the fans want, i.e. Greg Taylor. Bin him for 3 games, you've no won for 3 games. I just don't get it. And as I say, I think there's a penalty at the end. Now, you can argue we're going to Pittodrie and getting a point's good, but that's been a good place for Celtic to go and win games, and they have done that recently. But as I say, there's just something not right at the moment. But as I say, I think a draw was probably a fair result. As I say, I know we give them a lot of criticism, but I say Willie Collum got all 3 penalty decisions correct, and it's, to be fair, it was brave of him in the last kick of the game to the foul on McGregor, but it was a foul and it was a penalty, so the praise goes there. But Celtic are flat, and again, you can make the excuse of an old firm defeat. You've got to pick yourself up straight into an AC Milan game where I thought they were very tentative in the first half. And then going into a big away game at Aberdeen, which is always a big game for either one of the old firm. But as I said last week, if you're not given 100% playing anybody when you play for a team like Celtic, then I'm sorry, there's something wrong there, and something's got to give.
I thought, though, to be fair to Celtic, like when they come out, when it obviously was 1-0 at half time, and they were flat first half, but they did come out a bit better in the second half. I thought McGregor's goal was brilliant. I thought the way he took that was excellent. The changes made a difference, but the only thing I'm going to say is, why on earth, when you're screaming for leadership, like the past 2 games, Brown's been their only rock he's been only kind of player giving orders. Why do you drop him? Why? Obviously, if he's no fat, like fair enough, but why do you drop Brown? And
Well, three games in a week for a 35-year-old, isn't going to happen. I know these guys are super fit, etc., but it's the wear and tear on his body. Now, I don't think Scott Brown's started the season particularly well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to his game than running about shouting at other people. So if he's not doing the job as that, then do you need somebody that's running about shouting and screaming at folk? Probably not. You need a wee bit more quality on the park. And as I say, Lennon's going to have to rotate him this season, because of the amount of games he'll play in the Europa League and the cup competitions, etc. I didn't think Pittodrie's probably the best game to drop him for, if I'm honest, because I think you need battles up there. But then I said on Saturday night that if there's ever a game for Shane Duffy to play well, it's against the likes of Cosgrove and Curtis Main at Aberdeen. And again, he kind of let me down a wee bit. I don't think he's his best game.
No, I think Aberdeen deserve a lot of credit. I think not enough's been said just about how well they battled. I've been a big kind of critic of Aberdeen like the past few years. I think they haven't gone back the way, but a couple of signings have come in and he's got that team going again. Like Shankers, where do you kind of see Aberdeen? How much credit do Aberdeen deserve for getting battling on? Because Celtic were the ones that had to battle back to go in front, but Aberdeen battled back very hard to get the point.
Well, he said they done well to battle back. They could easily 3-2. They could easily a down two, no down tools, but they could easily went kind of like we went up in the game. We've done so well, and then they've dropped. They went down 3-2. They could easily kind of lost all momentum and just kind of seen Celtic kind of just seen the game out. But fair play to them. They went and committed men forward. Even when they were winning 2-1, I was surprised how many men they were committing forward, because that ended up being a downfall for them. Ended up going 2 each and then 3-2. But I was really impressed with Scott. Is it Scott Wright, the boy right for Aberdeen?
He came on and done really well.
He came on and totally changed it. He was very direct, committing men. See somebody with his pace, like running at like Duffy or centre halves. They don't like it. See if you're running at pace at somebody, it's so hard to defend against. And he's done well for, which goes on to be Aberdeen's equaliser in the last minute. He goes and beats a couple of players, and then it gets out wide and the cross in the box. But I thought a point was probably a fair result. But it's just coming back to the Scott Brown point. I think I agree with the playing 3 times a week. It'll be tough for him, but I think you play him in Old Firm, and then you don't accept that it's AC Milan and the chances are you're not going to win. But I think you look at it and go, like, the league's the most important thing. Scott away to Pittodrie, probably the second hardest fixture in the league. Scott Brown has to play in the team for me. I get the quality side of it, but I think you have him in the middle, and then the other 4 attacking players, you've got quality around about him, and him just to sit in the middle instead of it. But it's a hard one. He come on against Johnstone when they were drawn, and as if he come on and his presence kind of lifted it, and then they go and score 2 goals. I think he's got that about him to, when he's on the pitch, players raise their game because he obviously demands a certain level. And when he's not in the team, although he's not their best player, but when he's not in the team, you do see a difference. And Cham's not really don't think Cham's got that about him to, like, when the chips are down, to drag players through the game and pull the team out it. Whereas I think Scott Brown's got that quality.
Mm-hmm. I just want to touch on as well, like, obviously we'll go on to what's coming up for Celtic and Aberdeen, but Griffiths come on and again just get them back in it. Excellent finish, just a great striker's goal. Do you go with Lee Griffiths on Sunday? Do you start Lee Griffiths on Sunday? Has he done enough to warrant a start, Wilson, Jink?
Again, it depends on what shape he's playing. I take Mark's points. I actually think if Cham kind of played where Brown plays and got off the leash a wee bit, I think he possibly could. As I say, but he has that kind of Langley style, like Berbatov, as if he doesn't care. But I think on the ball, I remember years ago and laughing at the time, Match of the Day, I think it was Tom Huddleston that was playing for Hull, and they were calling him the quarterback. He was playing that sitting role and spraying passes. And I think if you play 2 up front you know, and you're looking now. I don't think if Enchamp plays 100 passes and gives away 60, I don't think he cares. He'll still try and play those good passes. Whereas he gives the ball away once, and he's thinking, God, 60,000 folk are going to be booing me in a minute. I know there's no fans in, but I think that affected his confidence a lot. And as I say, some punters want to get up and go, but it's the same old story. It doesn't matter who he starts. If they don't win the game, they're getting criticised. But my kind of selfish reasons, I would be getting Griffiths as many minutes as we can because of a Scotland game coming up in November.
Yeah.
I would be seeing. I think they played last year, maybe just at the kind of Christmas time. He maybe played 5 or 6 games with Edouard and Griffiths up front, and that's when they excelled a wee bit and went away. And obviously, eventually, were handed the league. I better say that to you too. Handed the league, not won it. So I would play Griffiths to get as many minutes in as he can in turn for the Scotland game.
And we'll touch on Neil Lennon. Obviously, just kind of his press conference just come out maybe about an hour or so. I don't think he's covered himself in glory with what he's come out and said. Basically, telling the fans to get off the players' back. Like I don't agree with that at all. Like I think he's in a tough situation because people have come out and said over the past few days, and you do need to realise that. Like folk do need to realise this. He'd won 8 games in a row up until the Rangers game. So, but they weren't playing well. Do you think though, like, how important is it when you're not playing well to get the results? And what do we kind of think? How does Neil Lennon kind of get out of this kind of patch his team's in?
He needs to beat Rangers. You know, I think, and we touched on this point last week, Scott. The cups, the Europa League, Celtic aren't going to win the Europa League. Okay, and yes, there may be financial benefits, etc. But the holy grail for the Celtic support is 10 in a row. Okay, now all the good work that Neil Lennon's done is his first spell as manager, and when he came in for Brendan Rodgers, and Mark will probably agree with this when it came to Alan McCoist, all that work will be gone if he does not deliver 10. He's been given a checkbook, he's been given money to spend, okay, and he's going on there, he doesn't want the fans on their back. Well, the fans are on, rationale for it. Okay, he's dropped. Greg Taylor done. I mean, he's not a wing back. He's a left back. Okay, so Lennon has to take the blame for this. Okay, it's his signings, his team, his tactics, and if he's coming out and saying the punters got off the back, I don't think they are on the players' backs. I think they're on his back.
But then we'll touch on obviously what's coming up. He's got the away to Lille and Europe on Thursday night. That's a hard place to go and get
forget about it.
Aye.
Take the kids. Play Turnbull. Play Sorrow. Play Klamala. Play these guys that he's signed. He thinks they're good enough, or the director of football, whatever, thinks they're good enough. Well, play them in these games because Lille away, Lille at home, AC Milan away do not matter a jot.
Right, but then
all that matters is winning the league.
But then we move on to Sunday. Aberdeen again in the Scottish Cup semi-final. I'll ask you both. Aberdeen will fancy their chances. They must take a whale of confidence for that result on Sunday. If Lennon doesn't win that game, what happens? But could there be trouble?
I think it'll take another league defeat. Now, I listened to Chris Sutton on Saturday night, and he's saying, no, if Celtic win their game in hand, he's 3 points behind. Now, it's very harsh, and as I keep reiterating this, it's not losing, it's the manner in which they're losing. They look, on Sunday, they look like nervous wrecks, hence the penalty that McGregor gave away at the end. I don't believe for a minute that Barkas is an injury. I think Lennon's thought, this guy's absolutely terrible, I need to bring in Scott Bain. And I think the chopping and changing, the uncertainty. Now, I said this at the start of the season. Again, you don't know, you can't judge Gerrard's signings. I think a lot of them haven't actually played a lot of games like Roof and Itten and these guys. But I said at the start of the season that Steven Gerrard, I think, will be mentally stronger because he's detached from it. Steven Gerrard wasn't brought up a Rangers supporter. I'm quite sure he knows about the club just now, but he wasn't brought up in that. I think Neil Lennon's too involved, and I've not seen the press conference, I'm taking Scott's word for it. When the panic sets in, he's reacted.
To me,
and that tells me he's panicking as well.
Mm-hmm. To me, it looked like a man who'd lost control of the situation from his own point, and that's never a situation MD wants to be in. But especially when the pressure is crazy on Neil Lennon right now, and it's always going to be because he wasn't a lot of fans' choice. Now he needs to, and he said something as well that got me. He said as well, a small portion of the Celtic support need to open their eyes or something. It was something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but you're looking.
Yeah, but a small portion of the Celtic support could be 5 million people.
Exactly.
Because it's not just the 60,000 guys that go.
Yeah.
You know, and if every Celtic fan was to give £1, it wouldn't be £60,000. There'd be billions of pounds, because around the world, and now in the days of social media, etc., you know, guys are having an opinion, and obviously someone at the club, if not him, is reading these things. Now, I know there's a lot of keyboard warriors, etc. out there, but the way it looks to me is he's lost that dressing room, and they're getting decent results because they've got better players than the opposition. Okay, but if they're not going out and taking a bullet for their manager, then there's a big problem there. And I don't think the Aberdeen game on Sunday particularly matters. But I don't know who they play the following week in the league. If they drop another 3 points in the league, then Peter Lawwell's going to have to do something just in time for the international break. You know, get a new manager and see what they can do. Give them January, etc., and see what happens. But I'm only saying that if Neil Lennon has lost the dressing room, because he looks defeated, and so do some of the players.
Mark, would you go with that?
I'm just looking at the next 7 fixtures. It's Lille. 4 out of 7 on Europe. 3 games domestically. Aberdeen in the Cup semi, and then away to Motherwell, away to Hibs. Those 3 games, those 3 domestic games could be make or break. Like,
oh, definitely.
I think it's. I agree with Mark's point about Europe. See, you forget Europe because last 16 quarter final is the maximum that Rangers and Celtic are going to go, in my opinion. Motherwell Hibs away in this Cup semi-final is absolutely massive for Lennon and Celtic. One of the things I noticed way back about Lennon came out and said about players at the club who don't want to be there. Well, not one single person has left Celtic since then. Yeah. So they players are either still playing in the team or round about the squad or on the bench or whatever. So if he's saying that and then they're still playing, but that says more about him. I don't think the players will have down tools. However, I don't think that. See, when Rodgers was a manager, if you were playing Celtic at the weekend, you knew like the way they were going to play. They had the same style, the same identity, and they stuck with that. I don't think Celtic are going out there, and I don't know if they know whether they're coming or going, what they're doing. They're playing 3-5-2, 4-2-3-1, 4-5-1. I don't know. It's as if they're going in the Saturday and then they're playing this way, whereas like Rangers are playing the same way all the time. They have done for a few years under Gerrard. They're just, you know what you're going to get for them, whereas Celtic don't really have an identity now. You don't know what you're getting.
Well, that's what I think's worrying about it, Mark. Mm-hmm. The Old Firm game, Rangers looked like a team that has been coached. Celtic, I think, have relied on having better players than the opposition, and now, don't get me wrong, I think individually I still think Celtic have probably more better players in the positions than Rangers, and that'll probably cause an argument in your website, Scott. But as I say, they look devoid of ideas. They look devoid of coaching. And as I say, when was the last time? You know, the Goldson's goal, okay, is, you know, it's a great header, and a great delivery. Don't get me wrong, but it's so poor defensively, and I'm thinking. Yeah. John Kennedy was a prime Celtic defender in his day. You know, he must be coaching that back three, you know, his centre halves. And as I say, it was a wee bit the same AC Milan's first goal the other night. If you watch it back, okay, when the ball goes in, even though it's went over Ibrahimovic's head, he's 3 yards from Christopher Ayer's not even seen him.
No, exactly.
Now, if it hits Ibrahimovic, he's scoring, absolutely no doubts about it. And but it goes over his head, but he's still not been marked in the 10 yards out. And as I say, I just think that they don't know. They don't know what they're doing. They're kind of devoid of any coaching or what job each person's to do. And unfortunately, that comes from the manager. Now, as I say, it's the mentality that they're coming out with. As I say, they don't look hungry. Now, as I made the point last week, and I'm sure Mark's listened to the last week's podcast, that 60 minutes it took for a booking in the Old Firm game. Now, I'm not saying he's just about kicking heads, and of course I'm not, but that for me, and Mark will know, I'm sure teams do it against you because you're one of the better teams, but there'll be guys in, and I don't want to name any other junior teams, but there'll be guys you play against, they'll go out and say, hit Graham Wilson early, hit Stevie Wilson early, hit Mark Shankland early. You know, put your name in the book, then you take turns at all doing it, because it affects the rhythm of your playing your game. No one was doing that. Now, I'm not saying Kamara was, but I mean, I don't think he's a particularly great player at all. I really don't, but he's having a smashing season. No one went in and just went, I'm going to just leave one on him, he's stiffing him up a wee bit. I'll take my booking. If I start maybe getting a wee bit antsy, then I've got 5 subs. Now, Lennon used all 5 subs. And we're still sitting at 60 minutes, letting Kamara and Davis dictate the game, who are not bought. I mean, it's hard to catch Scott Arfield at the best of times, but no one's went in and just went, right, here we go, let's set a wee bit of tone and let's for 10 minutes. Let's, you know, because they were losing the battle in possession and with the ball, so why not try and change it and rough it up?
For me, the fact that you just said using 5 subs in an Old Firm game says a lot for me. That just shows that everything that they've done up until that point isn't working. And I never knew the thing about the booking. See, 60 minutes, 2-0 Rangers. The game's done by that point. If that,
and it was Kamara. Kamara was the first booking.
It was even
60 minutes.
The Rangers' passages are playing that game like from middle to front. Even defence. At one point, Barisic was cornered right in the left-hand side of defence, right in the corner. And he's got out, he's played it, and the ball ends up in the right-hand side. I think it was Kent on Laxalt. And I always see things about Greg Taylor on Celtic. This is maybe just going way off. See if Greg Taylor put in that 45 minutes that Laxalt put in against Rangers, he would have been ridiculed on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. It's I don't know whether it's because it's a new signing or his first game, but Greg Taylor's
again,
he's not a left wing back.
It's a mentality thing as well, though, for me. You bring a guy, now, he must have some amount if he's playing for AC Milan, but you bring a guy from AC Milan and you stick him on his debut into an Old Firm game, right, where Greg Taylor's played the last 20, 30 games in a row probably. I don't get that. That for me is the panic.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something as well. I've just done an interview where I'm going to name drop Gavin Ray. Let's just get it out there. And Gavin Ray, he was put in an Old Firm game in his debut, and he just said, I said to him, what was the one thing, like that game, what was the one thing you wanted to do? I just wanted to make a name for myself, make an impact. That, not one Celtic player showed that on last Sunday.
Well, look at the way Gavin Ray played, though. Now, you maybe not remember him, Mark, you're very young. But look at the way Gavin Ray played. He was box to box. He was robust. He would put in tackles. If you sign a player like that, so if Celtic had signed Lewis Ferguson, I'll chuck him into the Old Firm game, absolutely. You're signing a left back. Now, we've all watched Italian football. It was kind of on the telly when I was a kid. It's very lethargic. It's very defence orientated. They're no running and steaming in each other for 90 minutes. Now, as I say, I actually thought Ryan Kent would have played a lot better, to be honest, because if I was Ryan Kent, I'd have went, I'm going to play against him today, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And ridicule this fella. Whereas at least Greg Taylor would have kicked Ryan Kent.
You touched on it as well last week, and I just thought we'll move on to the Rangers game just in a minute, but you said to me about Frimpong. Now, I've always been quite impressed with Frimpong, but last week, when you said that about the way he cuts back and passes to the back three, the 2 games I've watched since then, that's all I've thought about when I watch him. And he does it all the time.
Lacks confidence, though. Lacks the mentality. Now, I said last week, sorry to keep going back to last week. Now, Barisic is fantastic, but he's not the quickest. So if I'm Frimpong, I'm saying I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just go and play on him a wee bit, knock it past him and chase it. He didn't do it once. Didn't do it once, and that tells me that's a player of low confidence. Now, again, is he going to be dropped? Are they going to go out saying a right back in January? Wouldn't have thought so, because Frimpong, kisses the badge, did the funny interviews, sent off in the cup final. I honestly, I text, I'll probably show you the text. I said to my mates during the game saying he's the worst player in the SPL. That's why Usain Bolt didn't make it as a football player. He run fast. And I'm disillusioned how he gets a game. I really am.
I was very surprised with him that game. I don't think the way Rangers play helped his game. Like if he's playing at home to Ross County, St Mirren or something, he can almost play as a right winger. But see the fact that he had to come back and defend as much, I don't think that helped him, because I don't think he's very great defensively. And the way Rangers play, they've got three centre halves, so the space is in behind the two wing backs, and Barisic and Kent and Tavernier and I'm not sure who's not like Barker. Them committing, them like pushing them so far back, I don't think helped them at all. But I'm very confused about the way Celtic are trying to play them now with the three at the back. Do they play three at the back because Lennon doesn't trust them, like Duffy and I have to play as a two? Because we've seen them playing as a two at the weekend, and they've conceded three. It's the three at the back's not working. Like where do they go?
Do you know what I think it is? And I think you will both agree with me here. This will be our last point in the Celtic game before we move on. But do you not think when you saw him go back to a 4-2-3-1, Celtic missed James Forrest? And I never thought I'd ever say that, but Celtic really missed James Forrest when they're playing that kind of thing. He's an only wide winger.
He goes in. When he gets the ball, James Forrest's first thought is beat the man, get to touchline, and he'll maybe put one in or stand one up at the back post. But he's probably one of the most criticised Celtic players after all he's done for them over the years, and his numbers, goals and assists, I don't know what they are, but I reckon they'll be pretty good compared to the likes of, like, I know El Yunusi's not been there as long, but he's probably played more games this season than, like, it was perfect. Not a perfect game, but a game where Celtic needed somebody like Forrest, whereas they didn't have a lot of chances, and if you give the ball to Forrest, he's going to go and commit men. Whereas I don't think Celtic had that, because they were playing with a right and left back at wing back, basically.
Right, we'll move
just on that point though. Now, have you ever come away from an Old Firm game and went, how good was James Forrest today?
I know. I did get it.
Yeah, you come away against. I saw him at Rugby Park once, and he was absolutely outstanding. I've seen him rip Aberdeen, Motherwell, Hibs to shreds, but I don't think I've ever watched an Old Firm game and said, "Oh, James Forrest was man of the match today." And that's unfortunately, and I think James Forrest is a fantastic player for club and country, but that's what a lot of Celtic fans are judging these guys on. Now, there's probably still some Old Firm fans out there, maybe not this season, but the season's gone past where they've went, I would rather lose the league but win 4 Old Firm games. As I say, and I think sometimes James Forrest, because with Celtic's whole career, etc., I do think he gets a lot of stick because he's not a 10 out of 10 every week for a winger. Wingers are inconsistent. That's part of the job.
Right, we'll move on to Rangers winning 2-0 against Livingston at the other game on the Sunday. Rangers 6 points clear at the top of the league now. Again, just look so comfortable. Like, who kind of stood out to you, Shankland? Who do you think was kind of Rangers' best player? Aribo and Defoe get the goals.
Aribo and Defoe get the goals, but I think Hadji and James Tavernier, however you pronounce it.
How good's the goal? How good to say goal? Defoe's finish is world class, right? But he can only score that if the ball is right on the money. And see where James
see where James Tavernier plays the crossway. He's 5-10 yards in his own half. There's to find Defoe's left foot precisely, because it needs to be inch perfect, because it's not as if he's in acres of space. There's a defender right up his backside. That, I think the goal gets a lot of plaudits, but the goal doesn't get scored if that delivery isn't on the money, and Tavernier's been doing it every week in, week out for Rangers this year, and he gets a lot of criticism for Rangers, but I think him and Hadji just a game at home to Livingston at Ibrox is perfect for Hadji, because that's when he can go and show his quality. You've got a lot of the ball. You've got a lot of the ball, and somebody as creative as him. If you get so much of the ball, something's going to give. I don't think the first goal was particularly outstanding. I think it was a relatively easy ball, but it's just the fact that the position he's in. He's on the ground, kind of just that awareness to see Aribo in space. But I think Hadji and Rangers captain were the standards for me.
Hadji's touch, see the kind of 1-2 plays with Self for the first goal, I thought was tremendous as well. Hadji stood out to me. Mark, Wilson, I just want to ask you as well, like, Rangers are flying. They're obviously a great result on Thursday to go to Liège. I think they're the first team in 6 years to go to Liège in Europe and win. Arsenal and Ajax going to do it. Rangers, like, are Rangers fans right to be feeling as confident as they are? And obviously they're not getting as carried away as they did kind of probably this time last year. Like, if you're a Rangers fan, how confident would you be? Just how happy would you be with how they're playing and performing?
Well, I think they've got every right to be confident, but again, they'll be able. They're not confident because they won an Old Firm game at Parkhead. They're confident because they can see the body language of the Celtic players, the results they're getting. They're 6 points clear. I don't think they'll be getting far too carried away, despite what some of the folk have in social media. But they'll be thinking we're a lot closer, if not performing better than we have been in recent seasons. It's, to be honest, I think it's make or break for Gerrard as well. Never mind Neil Lennon, because he's been given money. He's cleared out. He's been given more money. He's got who he's asked for. I think that, again, depending on how close things are come January, he'll possibly get more signings in. And I think there's a lot of pressure on him to deliver this time, because Rangers fans, again, I'm quite sure Rangers fans are thinking, I don't care about beating Liège and Lech Poznan and whoever. If we don't win this league, then there's a problem. I don't even think this year, if Rangers won the League Cup and the Scottish Cup, I don't think that would suffice with the Rangers fans. I really don't. And as I say, that's why I think Gerrard is under pressure, but he hasn't reacted to that pressure. Whereas Lennon's under pressure and he's a bit early doors. He's a bit 10, 12 games into the season already. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But as I say, they've got every right to be confident. They're flying. They won the first Old Firm game. They're playing well. They may not have been brilliant against Ross County or brilliant against Livingston, but they've won the games, and that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. What strikes me as just how the kind of squad depth as well compared to last season. Like, if I was opening Thursday night, I don't know if Twitter, you saw my tweets on Twitter, but I was opening, the Morelos was just doing nothing for me on Thursday night, and I was, especially when Roof came on and we saw what he could do. Obviously that goal, I don't think you'll see a better goal than that all season. Like, but how different is that for Gerrard to have the options, particularly up front, because goals win you titles, and they can't rely on Alfredo Morelos, especially not now when he's off form. But how important is that to have that squad depth now compared to the past couple of seasons?
It's absolutely vital, you know. And as I said, that I think even Steven Gerrard thought Morelos would be away, hence the signings of Roof and Eaton, because he spent a wee bit of money, and then these guys can't get in the team. And as I say, Morales hasn't been as good as he was, you know, in previous seasons. This season, that, as I say, it's good to have options. But what I think is good about Steven Gerrard is he knows what his best 11 is, and these guys have to try and get into the team. So when he is, you know, if he takes Morales off in 60 minutes, Roof comes on and scores 2, win 2-0, I would guarantee that Morales will start the next game and Roof will be back on the bench because Gerrard believes Morales is in his best 11.
Mm-hmm. But do you, obviously, like, all three of us have kind of delved in coaching. Obviously, I'm in no position to talk compared to you two. But when a player's off confidence like that, do you have a word in his ear? Do you give him a rest and just see if that helps, or do you put him in the team and just see if he'll switch on? He'll switch on again, Mark. What do you think?
I think it can go two ways. You know what he's capable of when he plays his best, so you're sitting thinking like he's not done it in previous weeks. Well, this has got to be the game that he's going to do it, and then it goes on a week. But as Mark said there, Morelos is Rangers' best striker when he's on his day, and Gerrard knows that if he starts him, what he's capable of. So I think that's why he's playing. But touching on the changes, I've got 5 changes Rangers made to their starting 11, and it arguably didn't get any weaker than what it did. So I think that has got to be a good thing. Whereas maybe years gone by, when you change the team, a few injuries or something, it changes it completely. But I think they've got the squad depth. Now, I was looking at the bench for the Celtic game. I keep going back to that, but see the bench for the Celtic game, it was strong. 7 or 9 subs it is now. Like every player could have you could have started each of their players, and it would, in my opinion, it would have still just been as strong. So I think that says a lot for Rangers this season.
And we'll just touch on Livingston quickly. I thought they were quite solid, and they'll be taking a lot of positives for that game. Only losing 2 goals, but they had chances. Like, where do you see Livingston kind of doing this? How well do you see Livingston kind of doing this season? They've started pretty well, but now they've kind of got going. Like, where do you see them kind of finishing?
Bottom 6.
Aye.
Their target will be 10th. Their target will be 10th. I don't doubt that. I love Gary Holt to bits. Again, if Alex Dell's to leave, Gary would be my first pick to be the Kilmarnock manager. I think he's done a great job at Livingston. But I think the ambition of Livingston and the money that he possibly doesn't have, it'll be 10th, 9th or 10th for me.
I agree. I think teams like Livingston just have to try and stay in the division. It's simple as that. But I think they will be there or thereabouts. Losing Dykes is massive for me. See like I said, Old Firm or any team going and playing Livingston at home. Livingston are very direct. They're very direct. So up to Dykes and play off him, it's very hard to stop. So he'll be a miss.
Right, we'll move on to the other leagues in the SPFL, the Championship. Hearts, Wraith, Dunfermline, Dundee all picked up wins over the weekend. Inverness and Ayr had a 1 each draw. Mark, Shankers, I just want to ask you, a former Ayr man, what are Ayer's expectations for this season, do you think? Is playoffs set in stone, or do they need to improve?
I think it has to be the playoffs. They've been one of the stronger teams in the division over the years. They made a couple of decent signings. They got the boy on loan for Kilmarnock, which is quite surprising, to be honest. It's good for the boy getting out to play, but I was just surprised when both clubs dealt with each other. But anyway, they got him and Cammy Smith. I think he's at Dundee United. They got him and I think that was on loan. So that's 2 attacking players. But I think it's got to be the playoffs, isn't it? There's no point in aiming for that the last few years and just settling to be in the division. It's got to be. I don't think they're good enough to win the league. But playoffs has got to be the expectation. But I think it'll be between Dunfermline, Ayr, Inverness and Dundee. There's 4 teams and there's 3 places up for grabs.
The winners are Hearts all day long.
For me, that it might be disrespectful saying it, but I think they are too strong for the league. But Dunfermline, Ayr, Inverness, Dundee, I actually feel Ayr could maybe lose out in that.
It'll be tough.
Done by the other teams, other squads. It will be tough. Listen, everybody can beat everybody in that. in that division. It's just one of the leagues.
I'd say Wraith have started pretty well though, like 2 wins for 2.
Aye.
I'd like to see them do quite well. League One as well. Partick and Cove picked up wins over the weekend, and Falkirk drew 1 each with Forfar. East Fife drew 2 each with Montrose. Wilson, I just want to touch this with you. Obviously, I think it'll be a 3-way fight for the league. I think there's 3 very good teams in that league that could all go up: Partick Thistle, Falkirk, and Cove Rangers. Who do you kind of think out of
that? Well, as much as it probably pains me, going back to just sort of touching on the Championship, I think if you ask every Kilmarnock fan, they would want Ayr in the Premier League. Albeit when we get fans back, because that's, probably the only chance maybe of filling Rugby Park again. We have big crowds, and again the same. Killie fans love going to Somerset. Okay, we're not maybe the best record, at times we're on the same leagues and things, but 4 Ayrshire derbies in a season is what I'm sure Ayr fans want it as well. And watch Kilmarnock fans. So, and when Mark mentioned those teams there, so I'm just touching on this. I think out of all the teams, they possibly have better squads, but I think Ian McCall is the best manager out of those managers. Do you know what I mean? So I think I would rather have Ian McCall in charge than James McPike or John Robertson, etc. I think Ian McCall's a very good manager, a wee bit underrated for me. So I hope Ayr do, get into the Premier League. I really do. In terms of the second division as well, again, I think Partick Thistle are a massive club, and as I say, they were poor last year, but I think they were dealt a kind of raw hand as such. So I think it will be Falkirk, but I would think I would like to see Partick win that league and get back to where they were, because they're a very big club as well.
Some story for Cove Rangers though, to go up obviously through the Highland League last year and then be up challenging in League One. I think that's some story. Paul Hartley deserves a lot of credit for how well he's done.
Yeah, of course he does, but it makes it easier when you're buying Premier League players.
And
I'm not blaming. I mean, if every team had the money Cove Rangers had, that's exactly what they would do. And every team's no different, and I don't blame them. But as I say, it makes a manager's job a lot easier if you can get them guys. Fraser Fivey that plays there, and these guys. So it's fair play. Fair play to Paul Hartley.
And
I think Falkirk will win. If I was betting, I would bet Falkirk. Not that I'm promoting gambling.
You have to be a right good side to beat Cove Rangers, I think.
But I think Falkirk and Partick are good sides. As I say, I think it will be those 3 come the end of the season. But as I say, is Cove Rangers? I don't know. Is it a Gretna? Is that the story that's developing then? Because unfortunately, every team, the money will run out eventually. But credit to them just now. I'm sure their fans and all that are happy. And as I say, I hope they don't get to the Premier League, to be fair, because that's a journey and a half for Ayrshire.
Aberdeen derby.
We'll move on to League Two. Mark Wilson, I want to touch on this with you because obviously, all our mutual friend Mark Roberts played quite a big hand in kind of getting Queen's Park into playing professionally. I think they're going to walk that league. I think Queen's Park will walk a good result of the weekend. But how different will they be? Obviously, being able to play at a professional level now. Yeah,
but again, it's money talks, isn't it? And as I say, I'm quite sure if Mark was given the resources that Ray McKinnon was given, then we'd be sitting saying, Mark Roberts is a great manager, etc., etc. Signing guys like, as I say, I would take Simon Murray at Kilmarnock. And he goes and plays for Queen's Park, and as I say, again, if that's what teams want to do, but by all means, go and do it if you have that infrastructure. But they did have a couple of sticky results at the start. So I don't know. As I say, I don't quite know the full squad, but if they've still got a lot of boys with kind of amateur status as such, they might just not have that kind of mentality to go on a League One and run. I mean, I was there. I was at the Queen's Park game when Peterhead won the league at Hampden, and I looked in the Peterhead team and I thought, a good wee bit of experience there, but and I kind of, I knew every player, I knew who they were. Whereas with Queen's Park, you maybe know 3 or 4 of the big ones, but the rest, I don't know.
Is Queen's Park full time now?
I don't think they're full time. I know they're professional. I know Marco told me in the sit down that Willie Hockey was kind of the money man there. So I know there's definitely money behind them. So I think that will be the plan. But right now,
I thought they were full.
They could very well be. But
there might be some. I remember Ayr doing that a long time ago. There was some guys that were full time and they trained with the guys for the college and things. You know, they were in there full time. That was when you were there with Brian Reid. So then, Queen's Park possible on the same ilk as that, I would think.
Because like the players they are signing are coming for like full time, like previously full time. They're obviously either full time or they're getting like equivalent to a full time wage. I seen yesterday they signed Jai Katongo. I'm not sure he was where he was before, but like he was playing really well with Morton and probably looking to go higher to like the SPL, and then he's ended up there. It's like as you said, if any manager previously is given resources to do that, then they should be going and winning the league. But no disrespect to Ray McKinnon, but has he been success anywhere he's went, like in the higher leagues?
He was it Falkirk he was very good at. And then he jumped ship to Morton, was it?
No, I think it was Morton.
And then he got absolutely crucified at Morton. And then he was kind of out of the game for a wee bit, I think.
It was Dundee United, I think he had a bad spell, but I think it was Morton had done really well. I can't quite remember, but it's just when we touch on that as well, obviously that's the reason the Championship, League One and League Two are getting played this year is they've shortened the league down to 27 games. How big an impact will that have on the full-time teams like that are there just with that kind of more experience, just they'll have a bit more in the tank than the other teams do, I think?
Possibly, but again, what's going to happen with COVID? Are they going to be missing 3 players, you know, full-time guys with COVID because they've more chance they're out the house, etc. It's hard to base as long as, and it's the same as what Mark mentioned earlier about Celtic being away at Hibs, away at Motherwell. Well, there's going to be a spell probably at Christmas time that Rangers will be away at Hibs, away at Motherwell, away at Aberdeen, whatever it is. Everyone's off the same hymn sheet. Everyone does the same things. Okay, so for that, I just don't believe there's any excuses. They're all be playing 27 games. So they just got to go on with it, to be honest.
And that's the roundup on. We'll move on to the Q&A. Shankers, I just want to ask you a couple of things I've been told to ask you. The first thing is I was quite lucky to have Michael Moffat in the show the other day. And he told me to ask you just about Kevin Kyle.
Kevin was funny. It was good to have somebody like that. Like I was lucky to have somebody like that in about Ayr when I was there, because I was obviously quite young. I was 19 then, and he's played at the highest end of football. So it was good to, like, as a footballing point of view, it was good to learn for somebody like that. But it was quite funny around about the dressing room. Just he's been there. He's been full time in dressing rooms, played with top players. So he's got a few good stories, and obviously he's on a Open Goal podcast now. So he's obviously been successful with his stories, etc. But it was good to have him in the dressing room. It's funny when Moff probably told the story. I don't know if you want me to
on you
say
go.
It.
On you go.
When it was Kevin Kyle come into kind of train with us to start. I don't know if it was like just coming in for training, and then they asked him to sign or what. I'm not sure what the script was with that, but his first night he must have needed, like, a strapping in his ankle or something. I don't know. He needed the physio for some reason. And Moffat, bearing in mind Rangers are in the league at this point, and Moffat's the top goal scorer in the league at this point, which is quite a good feat considering Rangers in the league. And Kevin walked in the dressing room, and Moffat walked by and he pointed at him and he says, "Are you the physio?" To Moffat, kid, probably our best player in the team, one of the best players in the league at that point. Scored umpteen goals at that level. And he pointed, "Are you the physio?" And as Moffat told you, Scott, some people still call him the Fizz.
I don't think he's ever lived that down
to this day.
No. Brilliant. But I just want to touch on a couple of things we use well, Shankers. Like, obviously, the trial at Liverpool. Just talk us through about how that came about, obviously, and just who you kind of rub shoulders with down there.
It came about, I think, there was maybe, I don't know if there still is, but there was a guy that was quite local to Ayrshire who was a scout. I don't know if he was a scout for like, well, I presume he was a scout for like the Scottish side of things.
John Joyce?
Aye, that's exactly
John Joyce.
the name. Aye. And I just got pulled in at training. In fact, I didn't even get pulled in at training. I got asked in to Somerset and told, and just kind of couldn't believe it. It was, in fact, I was 15. I liked Liverpool as a young boy to watch. So it was kind of like, it's cliche, but it is a dream, like to go and have the chance to go and have a trial. The trial went well. Everything went well. It was one of the ones we'll keep an eye on things, which is probably what they say to everybody, whether they are successful or not. It's just one of the things. I've been asked loads of times, like, how did you know go in that? And I was like, honestly think if I didn't have the chance, like, I wouldn't have done it.
Aye.
Like, I would have turned it down to stay at Ayr, no disrespect to Ayr, but like your MD that had the chance would have jumped at it. So, but obviously the chance, like, opportunity wasn't there to go, or I would have went.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, you're playing at Ayr and even Auchinleck. Just talk us through some of the best players you played with, just at both levels.
Well, man, you're speaking about it now, Michael Moffat. I think he's Ayr's best player, and I'm not just saying that because I know Michael, but he is. And he has been. I think even when Lawrence Shankland was there, I think Moffat was still Ayr's, maybe not the best player, but the most dangerous player. Shankland scored all the goals, but I don't think he would have scored all the goals if it wasn't for players like Michael playing next to him as a 2 or playing round about him, maybe in a free role or number 10 position. But I don't know if he scored these 100 goals for there yet. I think he's 99.
I think he's 99.
He can be 99. See, for somebody to come for junior football, and no disrespect to Girvan, it wasn't like a junior giant. Like, he came for Girvan to go and play Ayr and score 99, nearly 100 goals. I was at Ayr when he scored 50. I remember the game away at East Fife when he scored 50. So for him to go and score 99 goals, and I'm pretty certain that he's going to score his 100th goal in the coming week. So it's definitely it says something for him.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant player. We'll just touch on. I've got a couple of questions for the Facebook. I just want to ask you both. Obviously, with the kind of the junior football's coming up in the air, like, who do you think is going to win the junior league, the Premiership? I'll start with you, Wilson. Who do you think is going to win the juniors this year?
Troon.
Think so?
No, just Marco told me to say that. He knew that would be a question because the junior Shankers was on, so he told me because they've signed him, they would win it.
How's he?
I'll just go with Troon.
How's he managing to still play though? He said that he was still kind of keeping fit, but he just
he's looked after himself all the years, isn't he?
He definitely has. I mean, don't get me wrong. First admit it, he's old now, so he's not going to play 90 minutes every week. But I'll go with Troon. Only because Talbot's not on it. I'll go with Troon.
I think the obvious one is Darvel because the recruitment that they've had for this level. There's no doubt that they've got players that are playing at that club that should be playing higher. They're playing at Darvel for whatever reason, but that's it. They stand out for me. Teams that could be there or thereabouts challenge them, possibly Clydebank, Beath. I'm trying to think who's no Buffs could be there. Kilmarnock, who's no.
The Buffs are a good team. Good team. Chris Drain's a good guy.
Yeah, I like him as well. But
do you know why?
I know Chris. I know Chris well.
I shouldn't say he was a good guy. I wasn't sure if you know.
Well, to be fair, I'm good friends with Barry Flayton, so that's how I know Chris.
Brilliant. I'm gonna go Clydebank. I think Clydebank could have a solid team this year.
Is Budgie McGee still at Clydebank?
No. I think he was at Kilmarnock.
Kilmarnock, was it?
Obviously. I think I don't know if he's still there, but I think he was there. If it's the right guy I'm thinking of.
But last wee thing, I'm going to ask you both. At the end of May, this is the big thing. At the end of May, who's going to win the Scottish Premiership?
There you go.
Martin O'Neill's Celtic.
You think
or Gordon Strachan's Celtic, or Roy Keane's Celtic.
You think they're going to go? You think if Leo Lennon goes, they're going to go back to 20 years ago?
Yeah, success. As I say, I hope I'm not on here just to criticise Neil Lennon. I absolutely not. But it doesn't look right, and I can't believe it's happened at this kind of time, you know. But as I say, don't get me wrong. You may ask me again in March, but as I say, I think Rangers will be quite happy to be underdogs, and I still think to a certain extent they possibly are, even though they're flying just now. But if Celtic don't win their game in hand, then you know, I maybe change their mind. If Celtic win their game in hand, it's still only 3 points. But what's happened at Celtic is they've put themselves under pressure to win 2 Old Firm games out of 3. That's a draw's not good enough. They need to win the one in the new year, and they need to win the next one if they're going to win the league.
And 2 of them at Ibrox as well, but
exactly.
It's more pressure on.
So
Shankland's answer. Who are we thinking? Who we think's going to win the league?
I'm not just going to give a straight answer. I'm going to talk a wee bit of crap before it. I think Rangers. I think there's players in Celtic's dressing room that's been there and done it before, which helps them, because when they need to dig deep, they've been there and done it. But I think if Rangers don't win it this year, when are they going to win it? Because ultimately, the way Celtic are played now, they have to strengthen in January. Mm-hmm. They either have to strengthen, or they have to just go full on and get rid of the manager and bring somebody in. And I think at this season of all seasons, I think that's too big a risk for them to get rid of Lennon and bring somebody in to then start afresh. Mm-hmm. I think you're not got enough time. Say they get rid of him. I think you'll get to Christmas, 10 weeks. Say if you get rid of him after that, then a new manager's come in and it's not his players, and then he tries to implement a new style of play or bring in his own players. Is 6 months enough time to change everything, or is it too far gone? But we need to keep going back to it's 3 points if they win their game in hand. That's one game of football. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of football to be played. If they drop points, everybody always says it's the old firms that will tell the season, whereas Rangers have dropped points to Hibs and Livingston. There's 4 points dropped, and Celtic have dropped points to Aberdeen, Kilmarnock. So they are dropping points to other teams in the league. So I don't think the old firms will be telling. Say last year they won 2 each, and it was all the other games that Rangers were losing or dropping points that ended up, which cost them. So I think Rangers are a different animal this year. Whereas Gonti, like I said, Sunday will be telling at Kilmarnock, because they've struggled over the years. But I think Rangers are different this year, whereas they can go and grind out a result. They've won loads of games, and it looks brilliant. But I don't think they've blown teams away. I don't think they've been outstanding. I just think, like to Livingston, they got ahead, and then see when they got ahead, they just controlled the game, and Livingston can't come back. I think same with Celtic, when they got ahead. I don't know for whatever reason, but Celtic let them control the game. I don't think they've been outstanding either team. So I think there will be points in the season where Rangers go through a wee blip. It's just whether they can play bad and still win. Yeah. That'll be telling. That's why it's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm. That's why Celtic have been there, done it for years. They've done it for 9 years. Played crap sometimes and won. You only need to look at the game against St Johnstone, where St Johnstone should have probably beat them, but Celtic just had that grit that they. If Celtic don't, if Celtic don't win their next game, I think the Scottish Cup game's an absolute. It could be a nail in Lennon's coffin if they don't win that, because the one thing Lennon can hold in his advantage right now is he's won every trophy he's been asked to win. That's the big. I think that's where Neil Lennon will say, "I won. We didn't play well in the League Cup final last year and won." Do you know what I mean? Like, that's where I think Neil Lennon's get the something to kind of hold himself with right now. But if they don't win on Sunday,
if they don't win this league, they don't win this league, then all these trophies are forgotten about that he's won previously. If you know what I mean, that does not even just this season, even before he was a manager. Like, even Lennon as a player, like, his name will be tarnished if Celtic don't win 10 in a row. And it's as harsh as it sounds. It's just true, because everything's been. All eyes have been on this for a few years, and now it's like, this is it. It's make or break, and if they don't produce that, well, the fans will never forgive him. They'll never forgive the board, the players, everything. I think there's a lot of pressure which could end up working an advantage for Rangers.
But obviously Rangers, where they've been in the past 10 years, like getting a ball stuck in a hedge against Brecon, the shocking results they've had to put up with in Anne and Still and Albion, just to name a few, like, now to be in the position they're in, a lot of fans will be thinking positive, and rightly so. But it's up to Rangers to go to Kilmarnock on Sunday and win, and go to Easter Road, the Tony Macaroni, Pittodrie. That's where leagues are won. They're not won. If they were won in Old Firm games, then I think a lot of league titles over the past would be different. But it's what you do against other teams, and I think that is the difference. That's where Celtic have the advantage. But it's up to Rangers to pick that up.
Aye, definitely. As you said, Aberdeen away is probably apart from Rugby Park, is probably the biggest test Celtic. Obviously, apart from Rangers, but like, I'll take Rangers out of the equation. Rugby Park was the first test. Drop points there. Aberdeen's the next toughest one away. Drop points there. Like, Rangers drop points obviously at Easter Road as well. But I just think if Rangers go and win on Sunday, I think it lays down a kind of, not a marker, but a kind of, just to say that we can go to these places and pick up points now, whereas previous years we've went there and lost or dropped points. But I don't know. I think it's too early to call. As a Rangers supporter, I want to say Rangers, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
Well, that will do us for this week. I've been absolutely delighted to have the 2 years on. It's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for having us on, Scott. Appreciate it.
We'll be back again next week to dissect the Cup semi-finals, and we'll be looking at Rangers against Kilmarnock. We'll be joined by a special guest as well. I'll announce later in the week, but I'm delighted to say that's us for this week. Thanks very much for listening, everybody.